Good night, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, all you ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. Here's Zombie Force. If you have the patience to listen to this video, say hallelujah. It seems that there's some simple lack of layman's terms going on in the real world out here that us folks is going to have to just deal with it. Either if you don't deal with it physically, you still got to deal with it mentally, because it seems to be the cat's meow. It's kind of like all those crazy ass videos and stuff that I've done and talked about with other people, and always insisted, that this little ordeal with Venezuela, I remember that me and some Ohio constituent up there would blame it on Bonesy. I had this conversation with Bonesy on how Venezuela would become liberated. That we were going to go in there and take over the oil, take over the economy, take over the government, take over the military, and install a new government. It seems like the right thing to do. In so-called soldiers training, we have a line in the sand out there. Starts up there at the Bering Sea, and it goes south from there. The United States of America is the #1 leadership of the Western Hemisphere. See, we're talking hemisphere. And all of these details seem to march on out there ahead of time, and I'm going to go back and just kind of refresh people's memories if they followed into it, and they're going to say, I'll say, okay, there was a couple of generals that defected from Venezuela recently, and they were pretty much important people of the Maduro regime, and one of them happened to defect into Colombia. And then, you got Colombian connection there. Now, who is the most important person with our United States connection to Colombia? Who is our closest guy there? And I'm going to give you his name. It's going to be Marco Rubio. See, he is Colombian. You see, his parents are from there, Colombia. They applied for citizenship into America. It was granted. They had Marco Rubio, raised him inside this country as an American. But the 5-star general that skirted his way over there to Colombia to get out of the harm's way of the collapsing Maduro regime. And everybody says, well, they don't make all these drugs in Venezuela. And they don't have that many coca plants in Venezuela. But here's what they do have in Venezuela. If you go, if it's of any interest, just go Google Earth, the coast of Venezuela. And you're going to see big expensive yachts and harbors and houses and stuff, people living on the wealthier side of life. While the rest of the fucking country is virtually being financially starved into submission on a daily basis. And then some people, they don't really know the gist of it, but whenever you go to Colombia, I've been to Colombia, and you interview some of the people, and you ask them, are they from Venezuela? And they say, yes, I'm from Venezuela. And all they want to be able to do is go back to their country. The people that have fled Venezuela in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands have fled into Colombia. And then you get this argument going on between people that are Colombian. You ask them about the Venezuelan folks, and they say, you know, there's a lot of them, and it puts a strain on their economy. It puts a strain on everything in Colombia for these people being here. But the Venezuelan people that are there, their number one answer is Maduro. They have to starve to death to live in Venezuela, because the regime takes everything and takes power over everything. So there's two sides to that coin, the yin and the yang. And since I don't know if everybody's savvy on these facts, but the country of Russia has withdrawn, and evacuations have been underway. Something like 200 or so Russian citizens, and everybody's been evacuated or on their way of being evacuated out of Venezuela. See, that's a fact. And the standpoints between the Russian embassies and the United States embassies and the ambassadors and everything else is well, Russia has enough to deal with on its own between this conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and they're not going to get involved in this, pretty much. That's in a nutshell. Their only involvement in it is, at this point, any weapons that have been acquired from Russia to Venezuela, and you have to understand that in excess of 90% of their hardware, at least in the high 80s%, they came from Russia, you see. So in this movement of what I was saying, hemisphere, and in our hemisphere, the standpoint is to say, hey, this is our hemisphere. This is our side of the planet. Stay on your side of the planet. We're going to stay on our side of the planet. It's like some fucking United States HOA shit going on here. It means that you're not allowed to have Russian weapons and rockets and machinery that's openly expressed towards the enemy, which is the United States government or any of the Western Hemisphere leadership. You're not going to come inside our camp. You're not going to come in our house and threaten us with your weapons. The same thing happened back in Cuba during the Cold War days, when Russia was essentially told to get you little nuclear bottle rockets the fuck out of U.S. territory. And that's what happened. The same thing's happening with this Maduro regime down here. Nobody's coming to save the cartel and the crooked leaderships and stuff. Nobody's coming in there to save any of these people. You know, China's bailing out because it's China's financial obligation to its people to try to keep its economy going and afloat over this impact of these trades embargoes and trades taxes and tariffs and stuff. Plus, we're their best customer, if you understand what I mean. It means that China's not willing to risk being involved or backing Venezuela in any form when it comes to one of the countries on this planet that helps them maintain their population and their financial sectors, you see. You don't want that person to be your enemy. You don't want your best customers that come through your door every day to be your worst enemies, right? So, in that Venezuelan conflict, you know, it's not really a conflict. People have to understand that there's millions of people inside Venezuela that want this regime gone. They want him gone. You know, I got a person that I know is from Venezuela, like I mentioned in a video back a year ago. You know, if you want to live in a country where the government takes every single penny that you've got and they make the inflation on the cash worthless, and if you've seen the videos where there's truckloads of money, Venezuelan money, just dumped on the side of the road, they make tourist gifts out of it. It's worthless. You go exchange $400 bills in American currency to Venezuelan currency, you gotta bring a duffel bag. That's a fact. A duffel bag to hold the money, because it's worthless. But anyways, not to go off in that rabbit hole, but it amounts to is in the conflict of the theater of war. It's not a war. And Russia's standpoint on all of this is similar. It's not for the American interest to involve or engage our soldiers and military members in a conflict between Ukraine and Russia. It has been all along. It's been our interest not to be engaged, because we never would have engaged them and they wouldn't have engaged us. The supply of small arms and certain weaponry in that is allowed. You know, it's allowed. If one of the opposite teams decides the football's flat or it had a blowout, it's allowed for one of the teams or an official to go get another ball. until the ball game's over. But it's in a different hemisphere. The American First Act, what the country is backed by, and the promises that was handed down through leadership and everything. I know everybody every day is they're not on the intel list of any of these facts until after, But that's one of the facts, is the standing on the hemisphere. To be a good, strong country like America used to be, then we have to defend our hemisphere, and keep an eye on what goes on in the rest of that hemisphere, but, leave them alone. They're either going to get their disputes settled one way or the other, But right now we've got disputes in our homeland and in our homeland hemisphere. It's like, how would you like to live in a neighborhood where your neighbor over there had missiles pointed at your house? Well, see, that's what's going on with Venezuela also, is their military capabilities and how it affects security inside this hemisphere. And then that was one of the reasons why in the presidential powers that he's the leader. It's because, why is that? And somebody says, well, make it layman's terms. I'm saying, okay, if the President of the United States has to authorize the use of a weapon of mass destruction, and he picks up that phone, and he's got to be and have the courage to say, yes, do it, or no, don't do it. But if he says yes, that means that's why we got two keys on some things. It takes two individuals in the same room. It takes codes, it takes launch codes, it takes everything to get the combinations to the launch codes and all that other stuff. It's not that complicated. But the commanding officer is expected at all costs to obey the orders and the will of the American people and the safety of their interest. See, and whenever the president acts, he acts in the best principles and safety for American citizens here inside America. It has nothing to do with anybody else outside this country, but that's part of why a president can, pardon himself. They just have that power. At the point that they leave that office, they can pardon themselves of everything that ever happened inside their administration. And then people say, well, how come he ain't locked up Hillary and Bill Clinton? They had pardon. That's part of the pardon. The presidential pardon, and it's sort of like people were under the impression that just because Donald J. Trump says it wouldn't look good for the country to lock up Hillary, it's because of that reason. You see, if people don't think that Hillary had blood on her hands, they're mistaken. But if you don't think there was a pardon involving her name anywhere in any administration, you must be stupid. The fact of the matter is that's another rabbit hole, but indeed, it is legal. And it's the American way. It's like that. They say, the last one that got annihilated out there in that ocean in this cartel matter that there was 2 survivors floating amongst the wreckage, and the second shot took place. When you're trying to prove a point in your hemisphere that you're not going to have any of this, boatloads of who knows what flowing into the American country and flowing into our systems and killing our people out here on the street. People just, they don't understand it. You got people out here on the sidewalk literally trying to give themselves a blowjob. You've got our women, children, females out here on the streets selling their ass to have some more of that. And if you think that's tolerable, then go right ahead. But the fact of the matter is the rest of us feel like that should be something that should be cured. We're never going to cure it 100%. It's always going to exist in some form or another. But right now, the epicenter is we have hundreds of thousands of people inside our nation, America, our hemisphere, the American Western Hemisphere, the main one, that are being killed by a substance being produced by one of our neighbors. Any of them. See? If you can tolerate your neighbor producing and mass producing stuff that somebody's going to put in their arm or put in their body that's going to kill somebody, if you promote that, fuck you, but it's a free world, right? The freedom of expression. It's the sand with this big ass line drawn in it, and we drew it. Everybody wanted this. They decided, well, we've got, and here's the real estimate in illegal immigration cases, the illegal aliens, and the ones that were imported in here by certain demographic people. Estimated 25 million individuals with documentation that was rushed, if it was even examined or vetted. And you remember when the first administration of Donald J. Trump, he spoke those words on how these people should be vetted coming into this country. And I've heard this blame game going on even by the White House press spokesperson. I've heard this come right out of her mouth. Everybody raved over it. Raved over what? The Republican House of, you see, the Republican, Lindsey Graham. You see, Lindsey Graham and some other Republican parties and Democrats and all of equal agreed that they were not going to leave their allies to die over there in that sand when we withdrew from the Middle East. You see, that's not one side gets to blame the other, and I heard it plainly as day from her mouth that it was one of the Joe Biden's fuck-ups, essentially. No, it wasn't. Republicans and Democrats in both the same goddamn country agreed with that. Not just Joe Biden. So careful what you want to believe. Nobody's perfect. The fact of the matter is there's not no room inside our country for any kind of such thing as doubt. Now, it's sort of like they do shakedown. It's a shakedown. You know, anybody in here got any weapons on them? Anybody in here got this? Anybody? It's a shakedown, just like they do in the penitentiaries and the jail facilities and all across this nation. You ain't got something, you ain't got nothing to worry about. You'll be on your way. Now, people would disagree, and you say, well, you know, I know you would disagree, totally disagree, but whenever you got to remember this, 21 blue states inside the country that have simply all out fucking refused to hand over their fucking records when it comes to fucking people on EBT, federal subsidized programs inside this country. Who is the ones recipients getting this food stamp, this EBT SNAPS benefit? Who are they? Who are these people? And you've got the Democratic Party and the blue states inside this country denying, gotta understand, this sounds stupid, this is the stupidest shit I ever heard. They are denying the federal government knowledge of what they're spending their federal issued taxpayer money to. You get it? If you ain't got it by now, you won't get it. We have 21 blue states inside the United States that have simply refused to give the federal government federal fucking funded record spending of the money, where it went to. And I think we all pretty much got a pretty good guess on where it went to and where it's going. And it's every bit of that's being taken away from us hard-working Americans and our families and our jobs. And you got people out here they're so behind on their true feelings and true facts of thinking, and it's factual. Hell, I've been saying that since fucking 2 years ago in some of these videos, 3 years ago, 15 years ago I've been here. See? 15 long fucking years trying to get this message across to people on how our houses and our apartments and anything that we have seen to constructed inside this country in the last couple of decades has to be at the hands of an illegal person that's not even supposed to be here, and then they're wondering why their uncles or their cousins or their family members can't seem to find a job, and they wind up out on the street on drugs struggling to make a living because they were pushed completely out of the market. You don't need a fucking high school education to go out here and help somebody frame a fucking house or pour some concrete. You don't need that. It's good to have education, but some people, they were forced out of the market, and the only market that they were forced out of is the only market that they qualified for. You see? They're not computer savvy. They're not programmers. They're not any of these people. So, when it comes right down to the brass tacks of things, you know, you have to consider that once the same people that's pulling the strings for the weapons industries and stuff over in fucking who knows, decide to say, okay, we're not going to get to send all these weapons and ammunition and stuff over to these countries. How are we going to keep our guys busy? What are they going to build? What are they going to put together inside these plants, these It's comprised of all kinds of individuals, but the arms industries is pretty much, there's a lot of ex-military members that work in that industry, making shells, making bullets, making guns, making tanks, making helicopters, making airplanes, you know. Lots of people. So, if you can put 2 and 2 together and come up with 4, not 3, but 4. You gotta have 4 on this. The country of Venezuela is bigger than Ukraine. Don't say I didn't tell you. Say it ain't so. The fact of the matter is instead of having some old Russian weapon down there, well, hell, I say we give them some fucking tanks. We give them some government. You know, it's been attempted before, but not so close to home. If everybody knows anything about Saudi Arabia, you know, what happened over there in that motherfucker, I do. In Syria. Yeah. But the thing about it is whenever the training and everything else gets involved and a new leadership takes place inside Venezuela, I'm going to give you a hint. Probably more than a couple of generals of the ex-Venezuelan military will probably be somewhere hovering around them seats of leadership. See, you don't get to be a general. You don't get to be a major general for no reason. It's not because of what you can do, it's because of what you know about people, what goes on. Yeah. Savvy. So, with this recent topic about the Afghan national that was here on a green card status, there was 2 of them so far that were so-called allowed entry, and how somebody fucked it up by not vetting these people, like somebody already done said in the past back there. Remember that? Then anticipate National Guard. Like I said, I know some people says, nah, yeah, they're never going to do that. The National Guard will be activated in every major city inside this country. It don't make a fuck. The California, fucking whoever, New York, whoever, get the fuck out the way. It's going to happen. The forces are already almost in place anyways. It just got worse due to the assassination. You got to understand this. The assassination of one of our Americans and an attempted assassination of another that's due to protect us and uphold the Constitution as an American just took a round, you see. One of them's dead due to this little Western Hemisphere problem with these people and this culture. Culture. If you expect 3 million people that came from a city or a country or a geographical location It's called factionalism. The faction comes with it. You have to understand that. What goes on inside their streets and in their cities and in their countries and everything that drives them out and drives them here comes with them. You got to take the good with the bad and the bad with the good. Be my guess. But whenever the good have no place to go back to, so whenever the right people come to the United States and they say, you know, I know you're going to say, oh, they should settle their own, they should fight, they should stand up and fight and get rid of these people themselves. Then I'm going to tell you to shut the fuck up. Increase your knowledge. If you think the Revolutionary War took place against that whole big-ass conglomerate of European army to push them back, you think we did that without any help? Because I tell you, if you do, we single-handedly, wrong again. It was Native Americans. It was Spanish people. It was people from different places on this planet that bonded together, formed a single belief that we should live in a free nation under our free flag, and our freedoms of religion and everything else should coexist in peace. You see, let's take a walk in America down. Let's just put Baca fucking street right down here in America somewhere. Get it over with. It's down there in Venezuela, pointed at us. It's killing our kids. It's killing our people. We have to make a movement on this. We have to stand up in this, and we have to say, okay, your indifferences is what's going to fucking fuck you. Go find some fucking Venezuelans somewhere that are fucking regular folks who are not criminals, and ask them, would you like to go back to Venezuela? And they're going to say, yes. But I can't live there. My family can't live there. Why? Because we have a drug lord running our goddamn country. See, same thing happens in the hood. When you got the drug lords in the hood, yeah, same. See, that connection. It's done for. It's only going to get worse. The heat's only going to get cranked the fuck up when they start involving talk about hemisphere. Then it's spot on. Everything inside this hemisphere that we call freedom, we're just gonna have to fucking kick some fucking asses, you know. And I know folks ain't gonna fucking agree with this and they ain't gonna agree with that, but the fact of the matter is I've said this and I'll continue to say this. He who holds the power of food and water holds the ultimate power. I don't care if you have thousands and thousands of your fiat currency sitting in a fucking digital bank account. Can you eat that? Will it sustain you if you ingest it? No. your skills and your tools and your knowledge is the only thing that's going to save you, and your wit. There's nothing. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's going to happen. You try to just throw it out there in a layman's terms, and you say, well, what'd be the good old boy way of saying this shit, is the facts are right. The numbers are right. The people that are here that's not supposed to be here, that needs to be back in their own country. Well, the majority of the Venezuelan people inside this country, they don't have really a country to go back to right now. If you understand what I'm saying. Here, go down here and take your kids out here and starve to fucking death and live in a goddamn jungle. Go ahead. No, we don't want that kind of behavior in our hemisphere, if you understand. We don't want that. We do not have the need, or we do not encourage that kind of a neighbor inside our own hemisphere. See, they named it South America for a reason. See, America. See. Anyhow, the strings that bind our decisions and our nation and ensure our freedom, and we make guns. We have legal law inside our country, and in our laws it says you have a right to make your own damn weapon if you want to. If you can legally do that without any kind of stain on your record, you can still do that, and it's still legal. And people who know these things, they also know that the older cap and ball and the flint and the black powder and that sort of thing is still legal. For those of you who kind of know what I'm talking about. It's there for a reason. So expect an increased security, and you're surrounded. If you're next to a major city or somewhere, you're going to feel some repercussions coming in the next few days and in the next few weeks. And you got to get to the top of that bell curve. We're not there yet. We're down on the bottom of the bell curve. See, we're just getting through there about a quarter away. We're not up to when it starts to cool back down. So hang on for the ride, ladies and gentlemen. And until the next time, I'm going to call it, and I hear anything that's interesting come across the radar, I'll be happy to let you know. Zombie out.